Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Harrogate series. Harrogate is a large borough, one of the 11 districts of North Yorkshire. It's got 139 civil parishes. Which one are we in this episode? Welcome back to Harrogate again, everybody. Now, you might remember us mentioning this place in a previous episode. That would have been Langthorpe. This is the village just to the north of Langthorpe, and it's on the border with Norton-le-Clay, and it's alongside the A1 and the A168. Now, those two roads are very important to this place, not least of which because it gives it great access to the motorway network. However, this place is also the site of the UK's longest motorway services controversy, a services which so far has never ever been built. If you're intrigued, carry on watching as I take you around the parish of Kirby Hill. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Kirby Hill, church farm on a hill. Alright, let's continue the run through the eastern side of the former Harrogate district, and today we come to a place called Kirby Hill, although this village goes by two names. Alternatively, Kirby Hill is sometimes known as Kirby on the Moor. This one lies on a section of the old Great North Road and is now bypassed by a section of the modern A1M to the west. In terms of older property, Kirby doesn't have a great deal. Most of the village is modern 20th century dwellings that occupy a square-shaped patch of land to the southwest of the church, which gives the place its name. Kirby literally means church village or church farm. Other than that building, parts of which go back to the 10th century, landmarks here are few. Kirby has a school and a pub and several smaller things of note, but for the most part it's just housing. However, this will be far from a boring episode. Kirby Hill's residents have, since 1996, been campaigning against a new, yet still to be built, motorway service station on the A1. As of recording this episode in mid-2024, the dispute has still not been resolved, despite much toing and froing between the relevant parties. The Kirby Hill Services saga is the longest running of its kind in the UK. Let's see what the place looks like so we can form our own opinions. We start on the A168 driving south from Norton-le-Clay. In a few moments we'll be in the village. This general area northwest of Kirby Hill is the location of the UK's longest running motorway services controversy. In 1996, developers wished to construct a brand new service area on the A1 at Kirby Hill. Ever since, a local group called Residents Against Motorway Services, or RAMS for short, has blocked every application to date. The saga is still ongoing after some 28 years and neither party seems willing to back down. Funnily enough, Kirby Hill sort of already has a services. The patch of concrete on the left, which we've just driven onto, is sometimes used by food vans and roadside traders. Obviously it's very makeshift and full of potholes, but what do you think? Should RAMS back down? It's perhaps too early to form an opinion. Let's have a wander around Kirby Hill first and see what the place is like. We start on Church Lane, a gentle hill that runs from west to east towards the church that gives the place its name. Church Lane sees a fair chunk of Kirby's total traffic these days, although that wasn't always the case. Until the current section of the A1M that passes the village was constructed, Kirby sat on the Great North Road, meaning that handled the bulk of it instead. There's a parish notice board halfway up this road, so let's get Kirby Hill ticked off the Harrogate list. Job done. We're beginning to enter the oldest part of Kirby now. Shortly after that board, the road starts to open up into a small green. On it there's a wheeled Celtic cross which acts as the village war memorial. 19 names are listed on this, all local men who died in World War I. There are none listed for World War II. Several old brick buildings surround the green, such as this farmhouse hiding away behind a tree, but in the grand scheme of things, Kirby Hill doesn't have many that could be considered ancient. As we'll see during the latter part of this video, this is a village whose identity is a lot more 20th century. A little further up the road, it widens again, and this time we're on the edge of Church View, a residential area that faces the village school. Kirby Hill has had a school since at least 1887. The present school, Kirby Hill Church of England Primary, opened in 2002. This replaced a former school which overlooks the small green, which we've just passed. You can't really see this very well from the road because it's set back, but later a footpath alongside it will provide a better view. Next, it's the church as we climb to the highest point in the village, the summit of Kirby's Hill. Now here's something you might find interesting. Obviously we're in the parish of Kirby Hill, but here the church is referred to as Kirby on the Moor. I do believe they are one and the same thing, so it's not anything different, it's an alternative name for the place, I suppose. So the church is hiding away behind this sign. I'll just move the camera a little bit. There you go. Nice tall spire emanating up into the North Yorkshire skies. Let's go and check this out. Dedicated to All Saints, this church is one of the most historic buildings in the Boroughbridge area. Its oldest parts are Anglo-Saxon, dating from the 10th century. It also has some 12 stones in and around it, which have Celtic carvings and a large granite block with a Roman inscription. It's believed to be a dedication to either Antoninus Pius or Caracalla, which would make it 2nd or early 3rd century. In 1870, the whole church was restored by George Gilbert Scott. The porch was built to his Gothic Revival designs, incorporating various worked stones ranging from the Saxon era to the 13th century. Now we're going cross-country because over the road from the churchyard is that footpath I was talking about at the school. This passes over a field with some cattle in it, but they came nowhere near me. Here's the school again, this time we can actually see the building. You can also see a house from here. Of a building type known as a carriage house, that's the vicarage, built in 1839 for the Reverend Mallinson. Its construction followed a period in the late 18th century when Kirby Hill's vicar was unable to live in the village due to the terrible condition of the previous vicarage. For these next two sections, it's all about housing. The path has brought us to Evesham Place, and as you can see, this is one of the newest areas of residential property in Kirby Hill. These were built by Cademum Homes in an area known as Priory Meadows. In total, there are 34 new-build traditional properties in various sizes, from 2-bedroom dormer bungalows to 4- and 5-bedroom detached homes. There's something for everyone here. The path we've been following emerges next onto St John's Walk, which loops around the south of the village and ends up on Leeming Lane. This is another housing estate, again modern, but this time slightly older. This street and the various cul-de-sacs which spring from its length form the majority of what's left in Kirby Hill. It's a massively different scene now to what was here just over a century ago. OS maps in 1910 show this area to be a gigantic field called Church Banks, crossed only by public rights of way. Kirby at that time was nothing more than just a scattered hamlet, and most of its houses were on Leeming Lane. The map also shows there was a Methodist chapel at this junction, but that's now disappeared. Not the most awe-inspiring section in the world, was it? It was basically just housing. Anyway, we've come to a point here which you might recognise. If you take a look this way, you can see in the distance there a row of houses on the, what will be your right hand side, I believe. That is where we began the Langthorpe episode. So, you know, we're not too far away from, you know, a place we already know. From this point, we're going to walk up the hill instead of down the hill. And if you go this way, you will get to the Blue Bell, which is Kirby Hill's only pub, and that's going to be our finishing point. It's too early in the morning for a pint though. It's definitely not open. Not all of what's left is within Kirby Hill's boundaries. The croft, seen here, is actually over the border into Langthorpe because the boundary runs for a short way right down Leeming Lane. This is the B6265. Although this isn't the route of the former Great North Road, coaching inns were still prevalent in this area centuries ago. The Blue Bell, Kirby's pub, wasn't just here to serve travellers with beer though. In its coaching days, this had a prisoner's cell too, used as an overnight stop for criminals hailing from more northerly locations on their way to court in places like York and London. And you can reach the Blue Bell by public transport as well, because just opposite the pub on Church Lane, you have this bus stop, which is served by the number 83 towards York on Mondays to Saturdays only. There's no service on a Sunday. Apparently, according to this board, it's 69 minutes from here to York. Definitely quicker to drive it in your own car, but then again, public transport saves you the trouble of buying petrol, I suppose. But yeah, there you go. That is the route around Kirby Hill, and I do hope you've enjoyed it. Let's move on to the next one, which is just to the south. So in conclusion, now that you've seen the place, do you think Kirby Hill needs a motorway services or not? It's a debate for the ages out here, and it seems it'll rumble on for many more years. Next week, we're going to a place which has no such issues, and in it we'll be on the banks of the River Ure once again. See you soon. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.